Has there ever been a moment in your life when you were terrified and you knew that the circumstances were beyond your control? That's how I felt on August 16, 2009, during the birth of my third child. I remember the doctor saying to me, "Mr. DiFlorio, this is going to be an emergency. We are going to have to take her into surgery." My wife was terrified. She had not received an epidural, so she would have to be put under anesthesia for the birth of our daughter. When we first arrived at the hospital for a normal labor and delivery, I remember my wife telling me how much she was looking forward to being the first person to be able to hold our little girl and to be able to hear her first cry. But here we were rushing into an operating room because the baby had a prolapsed umbilical cord. I knew that if my wife was under anesthesia, she would not be the first to hold her and or hear her cry. Just before the doctors rolled into the operating room, I remember her desperate expression, "Tony, I'm scared." So many things went through my mind that moment. Jamie and I had been married for nearly 7 years at that time. We had 2 small daughters waiting anxiously at home to meet their new baby sister. Jamie has a blood clotting disorder that has complicated the pregnancy and delivery. There was a great risk of her bleeding out during the operation. The thought of losing my wife and my baby was more than I could bear. I felt so hopeless and alone. The doctor tried to make me stay outside the operating room, but I pushed my way past him and stood in the corner of the room. I couldn't control the situation, but I could at least witness my daughter's birth and be there for my wife in this critical moment. As the anesthesiologist put the mask over my wife's face, she looked to me for reassurance, but I could do nothing but watch her fall asleep and pray that everything will be okay. At 5:31 p.m., little Esther Abigail DiFlorio was born. I quickly hit record on my phone to capture her first cry so Jamie would be able to hear it later on when she woke up. Esther was beautiful and perfect and unharmed by her scary ordeal. Well, almost. In a whirlwind of the emergency, the surgeon had accidentally cut her forehead in the process of cutting my wife open. After her birth, I insisted that our daughter remained in the nursery until Jamie woke up so she could be the first one to hold her. It wasn't quite the same being the very first person to hold her at that time, but it was the best I could do under the circumstances. To this day, nearly 10 years later, Jamie occasionally listens to the audio recording of Esther's birth, and she's thanked me many times for that recording. The birth of my third daughter was a moment in my life I knew the circumstances were beyond my control, but I am so thankful to God and so happy that is a now memory for me.